I would like to welcome you here on behalf of the Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies. And if you don't know who we are and what we do, you can take a business card that may be on one of the pews, or pews, on one of the tables, or you can speak to me, and I'm going to introduce you to some of the people on the board. Rabbi Alan Alpert. Alan, where are you? He's out there. Alan's an amazing guy. I mean, you go with him, you walk the streets of Jerusalem, and he's introducing you to everybody on the street. And then he asks them, "Are you from Brooklyn? Do you know this guy?" Alan Alpert, our treasurer of the board. His wife, Anna Alpert. Anna, where are you? She's out in the hall too. Okay. She's handing things out. We have George Eliadis right over here from MCC. Sarah Wojciechowski. Where's Sarah? Right over here. Newport High School. A new person who's coming onto the board, yes, is Jennifer Fairweather. Where are you? Right over here, Jennifer. Who's also a school teacher. And two people, who am I missing? Tom Higgy, he's out at MAISD, but I don't think he's here. Trinette Lottie Hart. Trinette is an assistant to the president out at Community College. So, very happy to have those folks on the board. We began in 1995 when we formed a collaborative with the Muskegon Area Intermediate School District and with Muskegon Community College. And we've been working together for the last 10 years. We've been concentrating on Holocaust and on genocide. Melissa Fay Green, in an editorial from the Washington Post, talked about how in the rhythm of everyday life and everyday things we do, hate erupts and makes the ordinary memorable. And this is what she wrote. Someone waited just inside the shul door to hand out prayer books to arriving worshipers. A small table stood ready with wine cups for the celebration of a bris. People look forward to having a bite to eat together at a Kiddush luncheon of challah, cheese, tuna salad, cookies. The emerging particulars gave us, among other things, a retired accountant who loved the pirates, a long-married elderly couple, a pair of developmentally delayed middle-aged brothers, a sprightly little lady closing in on her 100th birthday, a 71-year-old man whose 1-year-old grandson was the love of his life. There was the social hall, there was a storage room, ordinary places in the buildings of synagogues and churches everywhere, but now they played a role. 60 years ago, the temple in Atlanta was bombed by an anti-Semitic white supremacist who perceived that the Jews were masterminding the civil rights movement. And now the accused murderer, Robert Bowers, accepted the same widely broadcast theory that Jews conceived and bankrolled the migrant caravan invading the U.S. with some very nasty people. The words of Ralph McGill, who was the editor of the Atlanta Constitution at the time, goes like this. It is not possible to preach lawlessness and restrict it. You do not preach and encourage hatred for the Negro and hope to restrict it to that field. It is an old, old story. It is one repeated over and over again in history. When the wolves of hate are loosed on one people, then no one is safe. Amen. When hate speech firing up the airwaves and popping up at rallies suddenly tears apart with homemade bombs and assault rifles the everyday lives of ordinary people in the ordinary places, these things are not larger than life. The results are exactly life-size. A retired accountant standing in the storage room closet who may be murdered. A soft-spoken folk whose beloved dog is home waiting for its lunch, who may be destroyed. A bow-tie-wearing doctor, having sliced and arranged the bagels in a synagogue kitchen in Pittsburgh, hears strange noises and hurries through a doorway to see if someone needs help, when suddenly his life ends in a blast of hatred and gunfire. I have learned in my studies of the Holocaust over the past several years that we do not merely remember the events. The events give us numbers great and numbers small. What we are here to do is to remember people. Individuals who lived an ordinary life, and to remember them one person at a time. Paul, would you come up and join me, please? In your bulletin are listed the names of folks over the last few years who have met with hatred and has taken their lives. In Jefferson, Kentucky, Maurice Stollard and Vicki Lee Jones. In Portland, Oregon, Ricky John Best and Talisan Mudin Namakai Mesh. Timothy Kaufman.
Srinivas Kuchibota
Khalid Jabara
from Kansas.
from Oklahoma. In Charleston, South Carolina, in Emmanuel AME Church. Reverend Clementa Pickney, Tawanza Sanders, Cynthia Hurd, Reverend Sharonda Coleman Singleton, Myra Thompson, Ethel Lance, Reverend Daniel Simon, Reverend DePayne Middleton Doctor, and Susie Jackson.
Oakland Creek, Wisconsin, Sikh Temple, Paramjeet Kaur, Satwant Singh, Kaleka, Prakash Singh, Sita Singh, Ranjit Singh, Suved Singh.
And in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at Tree of Life, Joyce Feinberg, Richard Guthrie, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Rabinovitz, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Sylvan Simon, Bernice Simon, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, Irving Younger. I'd like to call forward at this time members, representatives from the community, beginning with Bonnie Johnson from the Baha'i community.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here tonight. When I was first called, I was asked and was said that the question of the day was, what would you do from your tradition to comfort the individual or those souls who are in crisis or disaster? How would you comfort them? I originally thought that I would talk from a personal point of view, but then I thought the world is full of violence, crisis, disasters. So I thought I would speak from that place and share that with you. I'd like to share with you a little compilation that was written on behalf of the Universal House of Justice, the Baha'i Universal House of Justice, which is the governing body of the Baha'i faith, located in Haifa, Israel. It goes on to say, to understand the condition of the world, it is necessary to step back, so to speak, to gain a clearer view of the panorama of God's great redemptive major plan, which is shaping the destiny of mankind according to the operation of the divine will. it should be not surmised that the calamitous events transpiring in all the corners of the globe are random and lack purpose. Though individually they may be difficult to comprehend. The invisible hand is at work, and the convulsions taking place on earth are the prelude to the proclamation of the cause of God. We can confidently anticipate, therefore, the arrival of a new life-giving spring, once the destructive icy blast of winter's tempest have run its course. Baha'u'llah has assured us in his writings that God has not forsaken us. He is the all-seeing, the all-knowing, the prayer-hearing, the prayer-answering God to those who turn to him in supplication. And he intervenes actively in the human history by sending his manifestations, sources of knowledge and spiritual truth, to liberate the children of men from darkness, of ignorance, and to ensure the peace, tranquility of mankind. In this age, God has determined to establish his everlasting kingdom among men. And so to this end, he has sent us the Spirit and message of a new day through two successive manifestations, who also were rejected by the generality of the people. In closing, I would like to leave you with this prayer. It is my hope that it may bring some comfort to you. Is there any remover of difficulties save God? Say, praised be God. He is God. All are his servants, and all abide by his bidding. Thank you.
Brianna Scott.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brianna Scott, and I am very grateful to have the opportunity to be before you all today on behalf of the Muskegon Rotary Club's Diversity and Inclusion Committee, for which I co-chair. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee's organizational goal is to improve diversity, awareness, and inclusion within our club and community. The committee engages in planning programs, events, and activities to enhance cultural awareness, appreciation, and community outreach. In 2017, after several racial incidents right here in Muskegon, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee decided to actively take a stand against hate and authored a letter that provided a community statement that was signed by over 300 individuals, businesses, educational institutions, nonprofits, and religious institutions. I'd like to read a small part of a 2-page letter that I believe speaks to the stance that we all must take against acts of hate, bigotry, and violence. It reads, at a time when hate and hostility seems to be spreading. Edmund Burke's words, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is that good men do nothing, moves us a step forward. We realize that silence appears to be acceptance, and we also recognize that we can't and we must stand against anyone who seeks to tear down our community through hatred, bigotry, or other acts of hate. We do not accept hate, and we will not be silent. Yes, we are speaking against hatred and bigotry, but just as importantly, We are speaking for love and for respect, because love lives here. Being silent when another is attacked verbally, physically, overtly, or passively is not acceptable. We cannot, we should not, and we will not be silent. Hatred and bigotry are not welcome in our neighborhoods, in our community, in our schools, our workplaces. Our economic well-being rests on our interconnectedness. We cannot thrive if anyone is excluded. It matters not your race, your ethnicity, your faith, or your sexual or affectional orientation. We are all here on this earth for a purpose. We all share our love for our families. We all want to live the American dream. We all aspire to be the very best that we can be. We must acknowledge that any differences with those that do not look or speak or love or serve or pray in the way that we do is greatly outweighed by what we do all have in common. Today and always, we stand against hate and for each other because love lives here. We commit ourselves to difficult conversations that bring better understanding and cohesiveness to our community. We commit to be active listeners and respect other viewpoints without degrading. We commit not just to one event or one action, but to continuous respectful behavior, compassionate listening, and recognition of our individual and collective responsibility to harmony and justice in our greater Muskegon community. We have a Rotary four-way test that we often talk about as Rotarians, that we are supposed to check any of our behaviors to make sure that they are conforming with these certain attributes that we all stand by. And I'd like to repeat them, and if there are any Rotarians here in the room, you may say them along with me. Of the things that we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? We remember and affirm Elie Wiesel's words, we must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. And as I stand here today in support of our Jewish community, as we all mourn the lives and the pain caused by the hateful acts committed in your place of worship, I feel it important to make this very clear. It's not difficult to decry blatant acts of hate committed against people for no other reason than their religion, or their sexual orientation, race, or ethnicity. But there are smaller acts of hatred and bigotry that we must, as individuals, also condemn. A mumbled slur, an offensive remark, something scrawled on a wall that we just walked by, destruction of property, as well as actual physical assaults. Make no mistake about that. Those are all hate crimes in their own way. And although we may not be the ones making those cruel remarks, or degrading remarks against others, or even doing the gestures, we often stand idly by as we see and hear others do that. And while others demonstrate that hostility towards other people, whose religions or ethnicities differ from our own or the majority. Yet it is precisely this indifference that I think we all have been guilty of. This willingness to let cruelty and intolerance pass unremarked, which we must combat. Therefore, we Rotarians, we invite you all to be a part of Love Lives Here, respecting a variety of conversations and cultures where everyone feels welcome to share their contributions, making us all stronger together and moving forward with hope and with peace. I brought a sign with me today. We've been distributing this sign all throughout the county. It's even been seen in King County and Ottawa County. And it says love lives here. And that's really the message that we want. Not one of hate, but of love. And we would be happy to share this sign with any of you who wish to have them and display them in your yards. If you want any additional information on that, see me after the program. But thank you all for the opportunity, and I just want to spread this message of love. I think it's beautiful to see all of the different people here represented in this room today. And I think that, as I stated earlier, we all have so much more in common than we don't. And if we can embrace those commonalities and grow from that, I believe that our community and our world will be a better place. Thank you.
I'm D.W. Talbert, and I am pastor of the New Hope Baptist Church on Yuba Street here in the city of Muskegon. And I am certainly delighted and honored to be a part of this program tonight. I would like to briefly share with you a brief message on the subject of the power of choice. The power of choice. I wonder today, have you considered the power of choice? Consciously and perhaps more so unconsciously, we often overlook the outcomes of everyday existence and how it is affected by our choice. God, in his infallible and infinite wisdom, has given humanity the blessed ability to choose. We have it within our will to choose him and to choose to live life by the principles established by him. The proverbial writer records in Proverbs 16 and 25, "There is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death." We are able to examine, scrutinize, assess, and choose a better way, a better life, a better relationship, a better design for living. Joshua was one of Israel's great leaders. Joshua led Israel into the promised land as directed by God. At the end of his long life and remarkable career, in the book that bears his name, in the 24th chapter, Joshua's final message to Israel was a review of Israel's history with these closing words. "Now therefore fear the Lord, and serve him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods which your fathers have served on the other side of the flood and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." In this brief statement, Joshua taught us three indelible items about the power of choice that can be invaluable living in these turbulent times. The first is restoration and progress begins with a conscious and purposeful choice. The second is the failings of the past must be considered as you look to the future, anticipating abundant living that choice will bring. The third is the awesome implications and profound legacy that choice will confer upon the world of tomorrow. The awesome blessing of choice, granted of God, welded by man to develop a world where all are valued, harmony can be achieved, and grace dispensed, if only we should choose the right choice. Today I choose to reach out to our brothers and sisters who have suffered indescribable tragedy and say we are so sorry for your awful pain that you must be experiencing. But we choose to extend the love of Christ to you and the love made possible to us all only through our risen Savior. And so therefore we offer to you Christ, the only source of lasting peace. Thank you so kindly.
Good evening. I'm Kimber, and I'm a member of Harbor Unitarian Universalist Congregation in the Nimbus neighborhood on the corner of Montgomery and McGrath. Tonight I'm going to just read a couple of passages of some writings. The first one is called A Litany for Survival from Audre Lorde. For those of us who live at the shoreline, standing upon the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone, for those of us who cannot indulge the passing dreams of choice, for those of us who were imprinted with the fear like a faint line in the center of our foreheads, learning to be afraid with our mother's milk, For by this weapon, this illusion of some safety to be found, the heavy-footed hope to silence us. For all of us, this instant and this triumph, we were never meant to survive. And when the sun rises, we are afraid. It might not remain. When the sun sets, we are afraid. It might not rise in the morning. And when we speak, we are afraid. Our words will not be heard nor welcome. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak remembering we were never meant to survive. My final piece is called Peace, and it is from the pupils of the Lincoln School. Peace means the beginning of a new world. It means that nations are friends. It means joy to the world. Peace is quiet and calm. It is rest. It is silence after the storm. It is love and friendship. It is the world's dream of dreams. Peace brings comfort and happiness. It brings bread to the hungry. It brings prosperity to nations. It means the strong respect the weak, the great respect the small, and the many respect the few. It is like spring after winter. It brings sunshine into the world. It is like sweet music after harsh sounds. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is John Sacalari, Father John Sacalari of the Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church. And again, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Let's say a few words that in a way we might find really don't do much to help the situation, right? Words, they can heal, but I think it takes a little more than that. It takes action. And like I said, finding the right words is difficult. And sometimes it's impossible to change the situation. However, I think if we look at the actions of what happened afterwards, we can see that true comfort and healing comes from the actions of people who jumped in to condemn these attacks, to save life. And we see these evil acts do not overcome the godly power that is given to the human spirit, in which we're given the power from on high to transform evil into good. Evil wants to get against goodness because one evil act caused countless good acts to happen, in which total strangers sacrificed their lives to help others. People have come out to offer prayers that we normally wouldn't offer prayers for. There's been support, there's been love, and a countless array of good deeds that have happened. And if we look at today's gathering in a way, we have gathered out of evil, but to show that goodness still exists in the world. We have come together in brotherly compassion to show our strength against the weakness of evil. Again, thank you so much, and God bless you all.
I'm Deacon Jim Schultz, and I'm from the Diocese of Grand Rapids. I serve Prince of Peace and the Hispanic community. There's a worldwide prayer intention for this month from Pope Francis. He gives this to us. In the service of peace, that the language of love and dialogue may always prevail over the language of conflict. I offer this prayer relating to the Pope's intention. Lord, God of peace, hear our prayer. We've tried so many times, over and over, so many years, to resolve our conflicts by our own powers and by the force of our arms. How much blood has been shed? How many lives have been shattered? How many hopes have been buried? Lord, God of Abraham, God of the prophets, God of love. You created us. And you call us to live as brothers and sisters. Give us the strength daily to be instruments of peace. Enable us to see everyone who crosses our path as a brother or a sister. Make us sensitive to the plea of our citizens who would treat us and turn our weapons of war into instruments of peace, our trepidation, into confident trust, and our quarreling into forgiveness. Renew our hearts and minds so that our way of life will always be that of peace. Amen.
Good evening. My name is Christian Carr. I represent the Sikh faith here in Muskegon and also in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This is unfortunately an incident that the Sikh community is all too familiar with. In 2012, we lost 6 worshipers in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Hateful crimes such as this. So I want to quick talk about a little bit of how what Sikhs believe in and how we kind of go through this process. Sikhs believe that the Creator is in the creation. The divinity is in each and every human being. And the purpose of our life here on earth is to meet God. These hateful acts are becoming a commonplace, unfortunately, in our society. So, one of the problems, I think, today is how we value people. We only value the things we think are important, or the things we have been taught to think are important. Let me ask you a question. Why do people commit such horrible acts? It's because they don't see the value in human life. But when you perpetrate violence against someone or kill someone, you have infringed the journey for that person to meet God. Had people been taught this from birth, from in their homes, that human life is important because it is your chance to meet God. The value of human life is important because it is our opportunity to meet the Creator. And in this journey, we are all equal. We are all human. Think about how different the world would be today if we just recognize this. But that's not how we value humans. We value humans based on their race. We value them based on their economic power. We value them based on their political power. We don't value them for the most human element of all, which is each individual person's birthright opportunity to meet God and to love God's creation. We have lost our attributes of God. One of the attributes of God is that God is without hate, God is without enmity. This is our time to rise up against hate. We as religious leaders, we as religious people, must take this opportunity to hold accountable those who have enabled such hateful rhetoric. Until we rise up together and condemn all forms of hate, we cannot truly call ourselves religious or community leaders for that matter. Words matter. They have consequences. And the people who use words to inspire those filled with hate, whether it's to hijack a plane, or target political leaders, or target people of particular faith or race, they're all corrupt if they're enabling those kinds of people to have a platform. Change starts at home. We must teach love and tolerance and acceptance. It's okay to have differences. It's not okay to physically or emotionally harm those with whom we differ. Love lives here. Love is present here because God is here, and God lives in all of us. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sahatya Akhismani, and Community member. I live in Zealand, and I'm honored to be here with you tonight. And I also represent Kaufman Interfaith Institute. I have the honor to work for them. I could spend my time sharing Quranic verses with you that talk about power and understanding, like the verse in the Quran that says, I have created you in different nations and tribes so that we may know each other, in which God tells us that his master plan, God's master plan, was to have us be diverse, to have us be different, and faces us with the challenge of how we will interact with that diversity, what will we do with it, how will we make the world a better place with it. Or I could share with you the verse that says that if you take the life of one innocent person, it's as though you've killed all of humanity. But what I'd really like to share with you tonight is something that brings me hope, and that comes from my interfaith work. And out of that is the relationship that we all have, the relationships in our lives that bring us together, and the importance of those. In interfaith, there's this thing called the interfaith ladder, and it starts with the T word, tolerance. And a lot of people sitting here probably think that that just means that we put up with the person next door to us. But when you really think about it, had these people that committed these acts even had tolerance, we wouldn't be sitting here today, right? It's a place to start. And it moves on through hospitality, understanding, respect, and acceptance. And it ends in holy entry. And that's what I'd like to share with you a little bit about tonight. I just am returning from Toronto, like literally, when Holocaust changed and came here. In Toronto, they're having a Parliament of the World's Religions right now. It started on Thursday and it goes until Thursday. And I just spent 4 days there. There are 6,000 people from all over the world gathering. Over 200 religious, spiritual, secular beliefs represented. And these people are all there to learn about each other, to advance in interfaith, to share who they are. And I want to share with you my most spiritual experience that I had while I was there. Every day, the Sikh community, like the people that Rishi was just representing in Toronto, are providing langar, which is a free meal for all the 6,000 participants. And the tradition, and if I misspeak, Rishi correct me, but really the idea is that I cannot be comfortable, I cannot be satiated, I cannot be okay unless you are okay, you are fed, you are comfortable. Every day people gather to eat together, to meet each other, and the Sikh community serves them a wonderful Indian meal. And so I was sitting at langar and I was just in awe of the intention behind this whole experience and the humility and the humbleness of it, and I had tears in my eyes. And from that, I went to a workshop. So I'm explaining my whole living experience to you now. And then I went to a workshop in which I actually saw a documentary about the Oak Creek Massacre and the Sikh community in the Gurdwara. It's called Not in Our Town. You can find it on YouTube if you want. It's really short. And in that documentary, we learned about, as you do in documentaries, about the experiences of the Sikh community when this atrocity happened, and the first responders, and all of that. And then after that, we heard from a former neo-Nazi skinhead, and he shared with us his message. And his message was that he was a self-professed bad fighter, and he said, "You couldn't beat the hate out of me. I hated myself. I loathed myself. I loathed everyone. And there wasn't anything anybody could do to get that hate out of me. The only thing that changed me was unconditional love and acceptance." And so I encourage you to think about that in your relationships. And I encourage you to think about the Jewish doctors and the Jewish medical staff who responded to the shooter, the person, and asked if his care was, if he was doing well, and if he was having a good experience at the hospital. And I also encourage you to think about the Sikh community in Oak Creek, when the greater community got together and told them, we raised the money for 6 caskets and coffins for your community members, and they said, thank you very much for only 7, because they wanted to have one for the sugar. And I encourage us to think about those moments of holy envy and how we can teach that holy envy and how we can promote that holy envy so that our experiences grow and our love and acceptance grows. So, thank you very much for having me.
I'm going a little bit out of order. I'd like to call Anna here. We have not been trying to take care of our visitors. I'm very grateful for everyone that came. That there are some housekeeping that I'm going to ask Anna to talk about. One of the things too that I noticed that for all the speakers, we gave a round of applause, and I think when we're in a situation like this, we don't know what to do. And there was applause for everyone but for Bonnie Johnson, and I think that was and I think one thing too, one of the gifts of Muskegon, there's so many of you, but Pastor Chris Anderson put together this program, put together so much, and is the chair, and he would not want me to ask for a round of applause, but afterwards, please come on to him. Anna, with the housekeeping.
I didn't know what you meant by housekeeping. I didn't want to sit and start cleaning up. A few things that I do want to point out. The beautiful mums that were left on our doorstep at the temple. I don't know who sent them to us. As well as 3 or 4 other arrangements that were just left on our doorstep. This sign that was handmade and was left in Alan's car. We don't know who did it, but that makes it maybe even more special because it speaks for the entire community. Things that possibly you may want to fill out. Along that table, there are unlined cards. At the end of the table, thank you. There is an orange bag. Please feel free to go up there after we're done and write words of condolences, sympathy, encouragement to the congregation in Pittsburgh. We will be sending them those afterwards from our community. Along the back table, there are some line cards if you would like to be put on a mailing list for the center to receive information about our activities. And as always, we can't function without the donation envelopes. If you want to take them home to fill out or fill out right now. So I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah,
Oh, no, you do that because you got it.
the ear plant is from the Presbyterian Church in Spring Lake. So there's been a number of phone calls, and on behalf of the Jewish community, of which I'm the rabbi, my name is Alan Albert, and our president, Bob Skolnick, who is here. We very much appreciate you reaching out. There is so much to say and so little time to say it. One of the things that, unfortunately, in Jewish history, this is nothing new. What do we do? And in the words of Elie Wiesel, he talked about turning hatred into love. One of the things that makes it very special to be in Muskegon is all of you. And there'll probably be a lot more people here. When we are discouraged, when we say hate is running amok, take a look at each and every one that is here. And perhaps those that couldn't be here because they had a class or they had to take care of a child or perhaps an adult. This community is not perfect, but it does so much to try and to be a blessing to all. Brianna, as president of Rotary and as co-chair along with Chief Lewis, has tried to make an effort, a continuous effort to make us more sensitive. Because I think I'm fairly sensitive, but there are so many things that I have missed. And I thank Brianna and the committee, and I thank all of you for being teachers to me. What do we say when we see terrible things that happen? And I wanted to read, it's a little bit of a different translation of the 23rd Psalm, because that's something that means a great deal to the Jewish community, and I think also to the Christian community. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. I am aware that those who have a tradition of God, I understand and are aware that those that are humanitarians that do not use the word God at all. And I think that when we reach out to all of us, whether we believe in a God or not. But I would like to take the words of Reverend Fred Rogers. I think many of you remember him from, actually it's true. Fred Rogers was a Presbyterian minister, and he took his religious beliefs and put it in such a way that nobody felt they were being clobbered by it, but could feel the love. And he tells us, and it was brought up on 1A and also on NBC, Fred Rogers, who came from Squirrel Hill where the shooting took place, he said that his mother always told him that when you see a catastrophe, a disaster, always show the helpers. Whether you believe that that is the face of God or whether you believe it's the goodness of human beings, be sure to always see and recognize the face of the helpers. And I would submit that's all of us here and those that we meet each and every day.
Knowing that when you come together, the human community comes together, there's an opportunity for singing, for music. It does something to our soul. I think it deepens us, it expands us. I asked Dave and Kate what song they would like to sing today. And it's My Life Flows On, an Endless Song. It's an old Quaker tune. However, it was also sung by Pete Seeger, and I remember sitting on the grass in Central Park and listening to that. And I also remember sitting in the Fillmore East and listening to Leon Russell sing that song. Oh yeah, dating myself. It's one of those songs that has come at different times in my life, and I'm sure in many of you know this song. David, Pete?
If you know the words to the song, you're more than welcome to sing along. If you're concerned that you're going to sing it sharp or flat, I've already told people already tonight that God made clouds, so that when your song rises, it takes out the sharps and the flats.
Life flows on in endless song of lovers' lamentation. I hear the reeds of far-off hymn that there's a new creation. No storm can shake my immortal. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds and echoes in my soul. How can I keep from singing? No storm can shake my inmost song. While to that rock I'm clinging, since God is Lord of heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? Though the tempest round me roar, I hear the truth it lives. But though the darkness round me glows, I'll take the night and give. No storm can shake my inmost calm. I'll to that rock I'm clinging, since God is Lord of heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble, sick with fear, I hear the death knell ringing. When friends rejoice, both far and near, how can I keep from singing? No storm can shake my inmost calm. Up to that rock I'm clinging, since God is Lord of heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing?
And this is speaker number 4. Oh, there he is. I see you. Okay.
Wherever men and women are persecuted because of their race, religion, or political views, that place must, at that moment, become the center of the universe. Ili Vissel Salah.
Love is the fruit in season at all times and within reach of every hand. Mother Teresa.
I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to a starless midnight of racism and war, that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood can never become a reality. I believe that the unarmed truth and unconditional love will have a final word. Martin Luther King Jr.
Did I offer peace today? Did I bring a smile to someone's face? Did I say words of healing? Did I let go of my anger and resentment? Did I forgive? Did I love? These are the real questions. I must trust that the little bit of love that I sow now will bear many fruits here in this world and the life to come. Henri Nouwen.
I see the world being slowly transformed into a wilderness. I hear the approaching thunder that one day will destroy us too. I feel the suffering of millions. And yet when I look up at the sky, I somehow feel that everything will change for the better. That this cruelty too shall end, that peace and tranquility will return once more. Anne Franken, Salah.
We need to reject any politics that targets people because of religion or race. This isn't a matter of political correctness. It's a matter of understanding what makes us strong. The world respects us not just for our arsenal. It respects us for our diversity and our openness and the way we respect every faith. Barack Obama.
The glory of justice and the majesty of law are created not just by the Constitution, nor by the courts, nor by the officers of the law, nor by the lawyers, but by the men and women who constitute our society, who are the protectors of the law as they are themselves protected by the law. Robert Kennedy.
In the real world, as lived and experienced by real people, the demand for human rights and dignity, the longing for liberty and justice and opportunity, the hatred of oppression and corruption and cruelty is reality. John McCain.
It is not possible to preach lawlessness and restrict it. You do not preach and encourage hatred for the Negro and hope to restrict it to that field. It is an old, old story. It is one repeated over and over again in history. When the wolves of hate are loosed on one people, then no one is safe. Ralph McGill, editor of the Atlanta Constitution, writing about the failure of leadership in the 1958 bombing of the Hebrew Benevolent Congregation in Atlanta, Georgia.
We wanted to give you a chance to speak to one another. And we're not sure, I'm not sure what goes on in other traditions. In our tradition, we have the passing of the peace, which usually turns into a riot of people. However, I'm not going to ask you to do that. What I am going to ask you is that you speak a greeting to one another. You can use a word, a gesture of welcome, friendship, fellowship, peace, healing, comfort. Share that word with those around you.
I moved to take a risk, and I hope you'll join along with me. I am from the Presbyterian Church, and people know me by my size, but I am dwarfed by the shadows of giants like Don Matthews and Grace Matthews. And when I was referred to consider coming to Muskegon, on First Presbyterian Church's sheet about their information, they referred me to their references, and one was Rabbi Alan Alpert, who is known as the Presbyterian Rabbi. As a Rotarian, as a Presbyterian, as a member of the community, and as one who is humbled to be here with all of you in the power of this moment, I would like to lead you, if I can, imperfectly, in singing a song by Don Eaton that I learned at a high school youth event called the Presbyterian Youth Training years ago. And I'm going to ask some of you to join in as we go along and squawk it out the best you can. It's called I Am One Voice, and it repeats, I am one voice and I am singing. You repeat that 3 times, I am not alone. I'm going to ask the clergy present to join me on the second, we are 2 voices. We are singing 3 times, we are not alone. I'll ask everyone standing to join all the rest that we're singing. We are 100 voices singing 3 times, we are not alone. Then everyone as loud as we can. We are 1,000,000 voices singing 3 times, we are not alone. And then finally, if you want to hold hands, we are 1 voice and we'll keep singing. I am one voice and I am singing. I am one voice and I am singing. I am one voice and I am singing. I am not alone. Clergy members, we are 2. We are 2 voices. We are voices we are singing, we are not alone. Everyone standing, join the rest of us singing, we are 100. We are 100 voices singing, we are 100 voices singing, we are 100 voices singing, we are not alone. Everyone, we are a million. We are a million voices singing, we are a million voices singing, we are a million voices singing, we are not alone. We are one voice and we'll keep singing. 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 We are not alone. Thank you and keep singing.
Closing word. And don't forget, before you leave, the cards, the notes of condolence, strength, healing, and so forth, right over here. And if you'd like to leave your name and address, we'd love it. We have Mother Lily Marks. I didn't say Mother. Mother Lily Marks from the Episcopal Church, St. Gregory's. And she will lead us in benediction.
Also the program coordinator for Muskegon County Cooperative Churches. This weekend I heard a Franciscan prayer, and I thought that this would be very appropriate. May God bless you with discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger, appropriate anger at injustice, oppression, hate, and exploitation of people, so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer pain, rejection, hunger, loss of life, and war, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and to turn their pain to joy. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in the world, so that you can do what others claim cannot be done.
Hear, hear.
A prayer of self-dedication. Almighty and eternal God, so draw our hearts to you to guide our minds, so fill our imaginations, so comfort our wills, that we may be wholly yours, utterly dedicated to you, and then use us, we pray, as you will, and always to your glory and the welfare of your people. Amen. So now I'm going to send you out. Almighty God, help us to remember that freedom does not automatically perpetuate itself, that we have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and pray for it. Freedom, like faith, needs our attention and our cooperation. Lord, be with us now to strengthen us, about us to keep us, above us to protect us, beneath us to uphold us, before us to direct us, and behind us to keep us from straying, and round about us to defend us. Blessed are you, O Father, forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Give us safe journey as we leave tonight, and may God's blessing be upon us and remain with us always. Amen. Amen.